Today we're going to be talking about managing taxes as a day trade, swing trader, short-term trader, etc. Now, one thing I do have to mention is I am not a CPA, and I would beg you, beg each and every one of you to seek out a professional CPA to make sure you're guided through your taxes properly. I'm just going to give you some tips and point out some things that I see people screwing up. But I tell you, something, I've had several businesses, started a business actually right out of high school, and there's this old saying that, man, your banker, your lawyer, your CPA, those should be some of the first relationships that you build, and especially in trading, at the end of the day, trading is a business. I hope you're running it like a business, like you're treating it like a business. You should have a licensed CPA that is familiar with day trading and short-term trading. Okay, so that out of the way, go over some of the biggest things I see people screwing up as we head into tax season. Number one is we mostly focus on short-term trading, but listen, I know I was there. I was a beginning trader. Listen, a lot of you end up being bag holders. Okay, you end up overstaying in stocks. You hold losing positions. You break your stop losses. Obviously, we're past the first of the year, but depending on when you're watching this video, maybe it's November, December, etc. I think that one of the great advantages of taking the loss into the end of the year is two things. It frees up your psychological capital. Okay, understand that being a bag holder, holding a losing stock, man, it messes with your head. There's been times, I remember when I still have PTSD when I first got started. I would hold these terrible losing positions, and I would just start the day out in a bad mindset because I'd log into my brokerage account and I'm like, oh, it's still there, down 75%, this big red number with a bunch of digits in it. I'm like, and it just messes with your head. It starts the day off poorly. So the point is, if you are bag holding, listen, think of it that way. Think of it as the write-off. You can take that losing position, start out the day fresh, start out tomorrow making good decisions, put your bad decisions behind you, move on from there, and just look at it and be like, listen, it was the cost of tuition, and at least I can write off this loss, and claim it on my taxes, etc. So now I'm not saying you're going to think about that in June or July, but depending on when you're watching this video, if you've been holding a loser for months and it's a week from the end of the year, just use it as an excuse to kick that freaking thing down the road and move on, okay? Next thing that I see so many traders, horror stories of this is, my friends, I hope, and hopefully if you follow these videos and you check out my webinars, by the way, check out the link to the Daily Income Trader System. There's a link below. Every single day we go over the best stocks of the day, live training webinars, using algorithms, using AI, using the best tools out there. You click that link below, you can jump on that webinar for free, tour the whole system. But the reason I bring that up is one of the big absolute horror stories that thankfully I never ran into because of the fact that I did own a business and I knew, again, about keeping some money for taxes. Okay, you have to pay your quarterly estimated, you got to pay on April 15th, etc. And the horror story I see, and again, it's a good problem to have, but you see people that make a bunch of money in day trading, which they're probably on the Daily Income Trader System, but they make a lot of money trading, and then they come into the next part of the year, and maybe they have a couple rough months, and on top of that, maybe they're spending a little bit of that money, which, hey, that's why we trade, but then that quarterly comes or April 15th comes, and they don't have enough money to pay that tax bill from the previous year because now they had a couple rough months, which is part of trading. Remember, you can't expect every month to be green. You can't expect every week to be green. If you follow rules and you're disciplined, the idea is that you will be green over months or a year. But maybe you just crushed it last year, and now January and February are a little touch and go. And like I said, maybe you paid down some bills, maybe you bought some toys, And then you go to the accountant on April 15th and he's like, hey, you got to write this check. And you're like, well, I ain't got that. So huge stress, payment plans to the IRS, liens, interest rate, fees, calls from the IRS. Like nobody wants to deal with that. So that is the biggest thing that I want you to focus on is, my friends, if you had a good year, which I hope you do, make sure to, whether you do an estimator or call that CPA. I mean, there's online calculators that you can kind of figure out what your tax bill is or going to be. Take that money, put it in a money market account, put it in a savings account, etc. Because the last thing I want you to do is come up against that quarter or that April 15th and be like, man, I don't got it. So, and I've seen so many horror stories. Like, people just don't think about it because most of you are probably coming from the world of, day jobs, okay? If you've got a W-2 type job, which I'm sure is 99% of you, your employer takes that out every single month, and you get to April 15th, and maybe you got a return, or maybe you got to write a small check. Maybe you got to write a couple grand or something. No big deal. What you got to remember is your brokers aren't taking taxes out. Nobody is putting that aside like your employer does. So that's why I see so many people getting caught with their pants down. Again, I had a business. I knew that, we made money through the year. You had to set aside some to pay your taxes, but please do that. Please figure that out. It's just, man, I've seen so many horror stories and just people freaking out because they didn't know what they were going to do. So that, my friends, are the two biggest things I see people overlooking. Be sure to take those losses into the end of the year if you need to. Take the write-off, and always, always, always understand that you got those quarterlies and you got that April 15th deadline coming up, and make sure you're squared away. All right, everyone. That being said, as always, check out the Daily Income Trader System. We go over live trading every single trading day. Would love to see you on those webinars.